Welcome to Genuine Humans, exploring the stories behind the great marketing leaders of our time and hearing how their journeys have influenced the brands they've built. Brought to you by The Social Element, here are our hosts, Tamara Littleton, CEO and founder, and Wendy Christie, Chief People Officer.
Welcome back to the Genuine Humans podcast. And of course, I'm here with my lovely co-host, Wendy. Wendy, how are you doing?
Good morning. Yeah, I'm really well today. Thanks. How are you?
I'm good. I'm feeling a bit more sort of in a safer space in terms of my cat. With the incident yesterday with my cat trying to drink out of my water glass, I've actually got water in a bottle today, so we shouldn't have any incidents today. I'm delighted that we are being joined today by Milimo Banji, who is the founder of TapIn. And Milimo, welcome to the podcast, firstly.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much. I've been listening to podcasts for the last couple of months now, and it's a real pleasure and an honor to be on, guys. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, that's wonderful. And we first met, I think it was a year ago at an Agency Nomics event where we were both speaking. And I just thought you were incredible. I thought TapIn is incredible. And so I'm just delighted that you're here.
No, honestly, I remember your session so vividly, and it was a struggle to find you. I was like, I've got to find Tamara. I've got to pick her off the stage and just try and have a conversation with her. But fortunately enough, I found you, had a chat, and we connected. And it was probably one of the best agency events I've been to in a long time. So it was really good to kind of meet you there as well.
Yeah, and shout out to Spencer. We'll make sure that we tag him in our notes in our show. So, Milimo, do you want to give us a bit of a background of how you came to start TapIn? What was the sort of what led up to you creating the company, and also if you could just sort of give everyone a sense of what it is that TapIn does. So, share away your founder story.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the first thing to kind of note is I grew up in Zambia. So I spent the first 11 years of my life in Zambia, and I didn't really know anything about England. I didn't know anything about Europe. All I knew was, my country, and I grew up on this kind of farm that was parallel to kind of this international airport. So there was this massive international airport. It's called Livingston International Airport. And my house was quite literally on that flight path to the airport. So this is so funny. I remember whenever a flight is about to land, the whole house would shake, right? So it got to a point where, I would know that, at 8:20, this is the 8:20 from Johannesburg, landed into Livingston, because the house would kind of shake. And, I think my reality at the time was more on, I'm in my country. I'm so fascinated by planes because I saw them kind of, take off and land. And then eventually my dad got a job in the UK as a teaching assistant. And he spent probably about 3 years here kind of working. And then, after a couple of years, we went to the UK. And I came here, and I remember I couldn't speak English. I was like the only person in my year 6 class that couldn't speak English. And really and truly, it was actually pretty difficult, because when you're that kid that's just come in, you can't speak English, kids can be very mean, Yeah. So I was bullied actually a lot, because I was that fresh kid. I just came, I was the kid that came from a foreign country. I came from Africa, and I got this. I got bullied quite a lot, but that drove me more than anything. It drove me more than anything to learn English, to actually sit my SATs, because year 6 you've got your SATs exams, and I actually managed to do better than the same people that were laughing at me because I couldn't speak English. So I think I got a level 5. I got a 5.54. I got 5 in science, a 5 in English, actually, which I was so happy about. And I got level 4 in maths. And then that just took me on another journey, because I was so obsessed with, I was like, why did I get a 4? I should have got a 5. That took me on a whole different journey through high school, where I just became so obsessed with maths and numbers, and eventually ended up doing like my A levels early, my GCSEs 2 years early, and then went on to university to do an aerospace engineering degree again. Because when I grew up, it was those airplanes that I saw every day, and I was so fascinated with these massive machines that could fly, and I was just so amused. So I thought, do you know what? I have to understand how they stay up in the air. Like, how do people travel? And then I ended up doing that degree a few years later in the UK, and then went through university. Within the first 6 months, those kind of questions were answered, and then went on to kind of launch TapIn whilst I was at university. And the work that we're currently doing now at TapIn is, we're on this massive mission. TapIn is a media company, and we're a mission-driven business, and we're on this mission to prepare 100 million young people for the world of work, young, diverse people for the world of work. So everything that we do within the business is driven with this massive mission statement, which is just around how can we as a business get up every day and do our best to support young people to get into the world of work. And we do that by working with clients. We do that by producing bespoke pieces of content on like social, on TikTok, on Instagram. And it's probably one of the most fulfilling work I've done today.
That is a wonderful story. And I think I'm trying to sort of think that mission that you have with the 100,000, did you say 100,000? Did you say
100 million.
100 million? Sorry. How are you tracking that? Have you got like on a board that you're ticking people off in the office?
Yeah, no, it's actually a very good question. And I think for us, the first thing that we had to realize and kind of admit is to get to 100 million, we couldn't do this on our own. We have to partner with different organizations. We have to be working with, companies that are on the same or a similar mission. So for us, the way we kind of track it is, what's our impact? How many young people have had access to our content? How many young people have viewed our videos this year? How many young people have engaged with us on social media? And we're looking to actually deepen that interaction by kind of building bespoke programs, which we're going to launch across the whole globe in the next couple of years. But everything that we're doing, that pertains to this mission statement is always driven with young people at the heart.
Absolutely fantastic. And, I can't recommend TapIn enough. I just think your team is incredible, and the content that you produce is just amazing. So I'm looking forward to seeing where you take TapIn, and I know that you founded it, was it 2017, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's 2017, and those formative years are always the most interesting, because from 2017 to about 2019, it was just nothing happened.
Yeah.
Right? Like nothing was happening. I was just scratching my head thinking, why isn't anything happening? And then things only started to change when I had really good influences in my life. I had, mentors, and I knew nothing about mentorship, right? I knew absolutely nothing about mentorship at the time. I just thought, you know what? The narrative that I was taught, I think I was about 2021 at the time, you had, really big marketers that were like, you gotta do your hustle culture. You have to raise X amount and build this business quickly. So in my head, I was thinking, I've got to find money from somewhere. So I wasn't thinking about team. I wasn't thinking about culture. I wasn't thinking about anything. I was thinking the first thing I need to do is find somebody to give me some cash to actually grow the business. And actually, it was through that pursuit that I met one of the most inspirational people in my life, my mentor at the moment, who's a really, really super humble, really driven guy called Kunle Babarinde. Shout out Kunle. And I was connected to him by another friend of mine, another colleague, and he was like, "Look, Kunle's just sold a business. He's got some spare capital." He kind of he set me up. He was like, "Look, he's got some capital. Go meet Kunle. Went for a coffee with Kunle." And Kunle is very direct, right? So he said to me, "Mills, what do you want from me?" And I'd never heard that question before. So I just said, "Yeah, I'm looking for £100,000." Because that was the biggest number at the time I could think of. And then he came back and he was just like, "Yeah, Mills, I can't give you that." And he actually laughed. He was like, "I can't give you that. But what I can give you is mentorship. I can mentor you. I can look after you." And I was kind of deflated at the time, because all I knew was, look, find a
I need the money.
exactly. I need the money. Give me £100,000. Let me run with it. But what was actually interesting is in that year of him mentoring me, we made more than £100,000 within the business because the skills, the expertise, the knowledge, the experience that he imparted onto me was such that we could go and actually do this ourselves. And it was probably one of the best things that's probably ever happened to me in my technically business entrepreneurship career, finding a good mentor.
So important. And I know that you and I have talked about this before, that importance that those early years, and I think I joked about it, for me, it was the wilderness years when,
Yeah,
when nothing really happened, but actually everything is happening, because in those years, it can be tempting to stop and say, okay, so maybe this isn't for me and this is difficult or whatever. But because if you're not getting clients coming in from day one, it can be quite stressful, and you question everything. And for me, those early years, I ended up sort of starting the company, and then almost felt a bit like a bit of a failure in that I had to go back and get more money from doing a day job. But actually, I sort of reframed it in my mind, and that day job became my first client. So I was working with a law firm called Clifford Chance, a massive law firm, and I was running a project for them, and they understood that I was starting the company, and they were really supportive. So essentially, I was doing a 9 to 5 job there to get the revenue in, but they were my client. It just wasn't really a social media client; it was a project management client. However, it meant that the company had revenue coming in, and I sort of felt like actually I am running a company. I just haven't formed the services. Well, to be honest, social media didn't actually exist at the time, but I was doing community things. But those first years, I think you have to own your first start date, because that's when you came up
absolutely.
with the concept. That's when you founded the company officially in Company's House. And it doesn't really matter if there weren't clients immediately, because you were sort of kickstarting everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I really am a firm believer that those early days, the wilderness years, as you call them, when Tamara, they are probably the most important, because for me, it was like I came from doing an aerospace engineering rocket science degree, and I knew nothing about business at all. I knew like I couldn't pitch to clients. I was turning up. I remember a really funny story actually. I I had about probably like 19 meetings within those 2 years, and 18 of my clients, or the prospects I spoke to, just said, no, we don't want this. And one of them said yes, and that became, a client of ours, and we launched a lot of our campaigns through them. But what was actually interesting was when Kunle started mentoring me, he asked me a question. He was like, Mil, so how are you pitching to these clients? Right? So I said, yeah, I'm going in. I come with my suit and tie. I say hello. I immediately get up and I just show them my presentation and I start walking through the whole entire presentation. And when I'm done, I ask for questions. And usually people don't have any questions and they send me on my way. And I thought that was normal. I did that about 18 times. It was on the 18th time that Kunle stopped me and said, look, you cannot be doing that. You have to go into every client relation and have a conversation, right? Be normal, be natural, be yourself first, and then begin to ask questions, understand their problems first of all, and just listen. And then if your services and your offering fits anything that they're doing or fits any of their problems, then absolutely your solution works. And it sounded like the most simplest advice. To this day, when I think about it, I'm like, that's like the simplest advice. But actually, I was doing it so wrong. And you're absolutely right, Tamara. In those wilderness years, that's when you learn skills like that. I remember reading a really cool book called Blue Ocean Strategy.
Oh yes, one of my favorites actually.
Yes, Tamara's a fan.
Absolutely changed my life. And if you're coming from a typical university background to then, coming to business, there's so much knowledge that there's a massive knowledge gap that needs to be filled. And that's when books like Blue Ocean Strategy were super useful. Where I'm learning about how to create a blue ocean. How do you differentiate yourself from, pre-existing competition? How do you invest in things like value innovation? And all these really unique things actually led to us rebranding. I don't think I've ever mentioned this on a podcast before, but we were actually called the Student Inspire Network, back in the day. And after reading Blue Ocean and actually having that new knowledge, we then changed and rebranded to TapIn.
Brilliant.
So it was really, really important in those formative years.
And this drive to support young people to get into the workplace and to support companies to get in sort of Gen Z and more diverse teams. How much do you think that came from your experience coming to the UK and being bullied and not included? Do you, because I mean, to go from aerospace to that to where you are now is a massive squiggle. So yeah, I'm just interested to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of those things where my own personal experiences, and I have to note that I think in my second and third year, I had quite a few internships. So I interned at the likes of, I think I was at JP Morgan, I was at Google, I did some time in kind of M&A and private equity, did some time at McKinsey, and I spent some time really understanding the corporate world, really understanding what impact or what value I could really provide to different organizations. But the beautiful thing about that was it gave me the exposure to understanding some of the challenges that diverse talent actually face in the workplace. I worked in insurance. I interned at an insurance company I did a summer internship. And I remember that being the first time ever that my race and my ethnicity I had to actually think about it. And the one event that exemplified that was I started as an intern. I walked into that first room. I was the only black person. About 70 interns. And this is probably about 4 years ago, actually. 70 interns. I was the only black person. So I remember thinking to myself, how have they only found one black person in this hall? There's 70 people. How have they only found one black person? So already I was already kind of uncomfortable with the whole situation because I was thinking more must be done here. And then I remember a situation where I was in the office and I walked around the office and people were just kind of looking at me like they've never seen a black person before. And I walked around the whole entire office and every single person was thinking, oh, he shouldn't be here. And in my head, I'm thinking, are they thinking he shouldn't be here? What's going through their head? Because everybody was looking. And although I was given the final offer, they gave me a really good starting salary. They're like, we really want you. I was speaking to like the MDs or like Mills, we really want you to start. I didn't feel comfortable. I genuinely didn't feel comfortable. And it was the drive from experiences like that then, led me to building TapIn and thinking actually more needs to be done. More needs to be done to, number one, support young people, young diverse individuals that come from different backgrounds into getting to the world of work, number one. But number two, companies need to have an understanding as to the importance of diversity and inclusion. And it's no good blaming companies or blaming students. Actually, why not be a source of knowledge? Why not be, a source of information? And I think we're now kind of doing some kind of groundbreaking research into black talent and understanding that. And already, I think the survey that we've run now has over 2,000 black students that have completed it, and it's now officially the largest report into black talent. And for us, it's about how do we broker that understanding, that knowledge gap between, organizations, employers, but also how do we make young black individuals understand what they need to be doing to get into the world of work.
Before you met your mentor, who sounds absolutely incredible, did you have any heroes, anyone, role models, anyone that you looked up to, whether it was some people you knew or authors or celebrities or sports people, or who were your heroes?
That's a good question. I remember growing up back in Zambia when I was super young. I used to be the biggest Bruce Lee fan. I loved that guy so much. I would be the kid that I watch like Bruce Lee movies, and then immediately I go outside and I try and like kick and do certain stunts and all sorts of things. I absolutely loved that guy. So I emulated everything that he did. And it's like a lot of what I learned from Bruce Lee, I kind of exemplified in my own life. He's very disciplined. He trained really hard. So I was young, but those kind of principles of working hard, of resilience, of training, he was so disciplined, kind of almost got imparted onto me.
Fun. And are there any other people over the years that you've worked with or who've really sort of supported you? Obviously, again, you've spoken about your mentor, but are there other people that you'd like to acknowledge?
Absolutely. I think my parents have played a massive role in everything I've done to this day. I think seeing them really work hard, both of them are teachers. So my mum's a teaching assistant and my dad is a maths teacher, funnily enough. And seeing them work so hard, seeing them instill values of respect, of kindness, of servitude, those principles early on that they instilled in me absolutely helped to shape who I am today and shape everything that I've become. So I'll definitely say my parents are definitely up there.
That their support must have been incredibly helpful when you first moved over, because a difficult time.
Absolutely. My parents were always very encouraging. They were always pushing me to strive for more than I currently could see. And I know I lacked confidence. Coming to this country, getting bullied in year six, a lot of my confidence was actually weared off. And, having them just kind of encourage me and be like, you can do this. My dad always encouraged me to read. So I'm an avid reader. Like I probably read like a book or two a week. But he did something really cool when I was young where he would read a book, but then he would make it really interesting. I've just read this reading book. It's changed my life completely. And I was a very excitable kid. I used to love it. Was so fascinated by my dad and you know, he would make books seem so interesting. I'd pick up that book and I would read it. And read another book and be like, oh, this book absolutely is going to change your life. And I'd read it. So without knowing it, I got into the habit of reading books and now it's become something that I just do. But I feel like the support that my parents, both my mom and my dad, instilled in me when I was young has really shaped who I've become today.
That's lovely. And is there any advice that you'd give to other young entrepreneurs? I mean, obviously you were pretty young when you started TapIn. Is there advice that you'd give to people who want to follow that kind of path?
I think the first thing is to be comfortable with failure. Learn to fail and learn to make mistakes and be comfortable with the notion that you are going to fail, you are going to make mistakes and things aren't going to be smooth. That's probably the biggest thing, and I think one of the biggest differentiators between entrepreneurs or people that become successful entrepreneurs and people that do one thing and they say I can't do it. You shared, Tamara, earlier about your work with Clifford Chance, and you kind of said, look, I kept on going and I got some project work with them, and that made me feel like a real entrepreneur. And it's that resilience to kind of be like, I've tried something, let me go back into work and give it another go. That's that resilience that's so important. And I feel like so many young people will start things, they'll start businesses, but after the first attempt, it's like, oh, I'm going to give up now. I'm not going to continue with my idea because it hasn't failed. And I feel like nowadays there's the additional pressure with social media. When you're posting things on Instagram, you're posting things on Snapchat, you're tweeting about things, you're producing content around it. People are on that journey with you, and failure becomes something that doesn't become as acceptable because you've got so many people watching you. And if you fail, you're not just failing for yourself, but there's like hundreds of people that have been watching you fail. And that pressure mounts even more. But that resilience is super important. So that'd probably be my advice.
And you talk about that pressure and that young people have on social media. And I think, the marketing industry is changing so much. I mean, that's what makes me excited about the marketing industry is its constant change. But what's exciting you about the marketing industry at the moment?
That's a good question. I'd probably say the rise of kind of personal branding.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people, a lot of founders, CEOs, employees, teams, businesses begin to invest heavily in personal branding. And that's something that I've done myself. I've invested heavily in my personal brand, and it's a trend that I didn't see perhaps 2 years ago. Within the marketing space, a lot of organizations tend to kind of keep to themselves, or they might do some PR to kind of share perhaps a campaign or a really successful case study. But what I'm seeing more and more, and what I'm really excited about right now, is getting to know these people within the marketing space for who they are, getting to know their personalities, getting to know some of their challenges, and understanding more about them away from their marketing job. What do they do at the weekend? What do they care about? What are some of their values? Are our values aligned? And it's really interesting that people connect with people. Individuals connect with other individuals. And if you're able to share your story, your journey, who you are, and be vulnerable, across socials, I don't know if it's on LinkedIn or if it's on Instagram, but people love connecting with people that are human.
Mm.
And it's a trend that I'm really, really, really excited about going forward, because there is so much opportunities for people to be real and move away from their silos of, we are a great marketing team, we do these amazing things in our silo, but actually we've struggled to gain clients over the last 2 months. And let's talk about that story, because other people are actually going through the exact same thing. So I'm really, really excited about the prospect of personal branding as a trend.
I think that vulnerability is so important. And as you say, it does allow people to connect. I know that it was a big driver for Wendy and I doing this podcast, was to allow a space for people to be, obviously genuine humans, and hence the name. But it really is quite powerful to connect. I do wonder if over the last couple of years, has it been 3 years, 2 years in a pandemic? I've probably lost a year, but I think that connection, it's almost like it's been more allowed for people to be vulnerable and share what's really going on, and maybe that will be one of the positive outcomes of the pandemic. What would you say still needs to change in our industry, though?
I think what I've noticed is there are a few things that I would say need to be changed, but I think the most pertinent, or the one that's the most obvious for me, I think being a black founder in a predominantly white industry
Mm.
can have its challenges. There are always opportunities, and I think I'm always open to looking at things on the bright side. But I feel like the most obvious one is the lack of diversity within the marketing space. You know, I've probably come across a handful of entrepreneurs or founders or even employees or teams, that look like me, that are diverse within marketing. And I see that more of an opportunity for the industry, just because we all know the benefits of having diverse teams. We all know the benefits of building super diverse teams that can be productive, that can create different ideas. And I think it's even more important in marketing to have these diverse teams, because I'm sure we've all seen some of the mistakes. We've seen some of the campaigns that have gone out or be allowed to go out, which have not taken diverse perspectives into account. And an agency, a whole entire agency, could literally have some really bad PR because of the lack of diversity, because of the lack of understanding certain demographics and producing pieces of content or campaigns that aren't reflective of certain communities. So, away from just the business sense, there's also this need to have diverse teams, diverse marketing teams, to build better products, but also to be more efficient, to deliver value to different levels, and to engage and understand differences. And I think in marketing, it's even more important to have individuals that are diverse, to have diverse teams. And it would be great also as a function of inspiration, just because if you want to get more diverse individuals in marketing, have more diverse founders, have more diverse teams, because then I always say this one thing, which is, you can't be what you can't see. A lot of the times inspiration comes from being able to see individuals that look like you, thriving in a particular space. It comes from seeing individuals who are doing fantastically in a space like marketing. You look at that as a form of inspiration. You look at that and you care about that and you think, I can aspire to be that one day, So I think it's really important that we start thinking about diversity and inclusion in a different lens in the marketing space.
And that ties back into that personal branding thing that you were saying as well, about being a role model, being the change that you want to see. So I think it all kind of connects. Of that will make a difference in the industry, but I agree that it's frustratingly slow to change.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think personal branding is an immediate kind of remedy. It's also it's short term and it's long term, because what you're doing in the short term is you're saying, look, here are diverse voices sharing their stories. But in the long term, you're inspiring the next generation. You're inspiring other people within marketing to actually do the same, to share their stories. And I completely agree, Tamara. It's absolutely something that should be at the top of the agenda for organizations.
My last question about TapIn is, where do you think you want to take it, say, like in 5 years' time? What's the sort of the vision for the company?
For me, as the founder, I want us to see, I want to see the business impact the lives of people first and foremost. That's the thing that will give us as a business and me as a founder the greatest satisfaction. And by impact, I mean, could we impact the lives of young people? Could we impact the lives of the organizations or the clients who we work with? But actually, could we impact the team that we're building? I'm a firm believer that, you should build an organization where people genuinely want to be there, build an organization where, people are doing their best work. And when I look at success in 5 years, that for me looks like the impact that we have made to young people, to our clients, to our partners, and to the team that we're building.
So I think it's now time to move on to the final section of the podcast, where it gets a bit more personal, but well, maybe not more personal, because I think it's already been quite personal, but a bit more lighthearted. So we're just going to ask you a few quick fire questions. So I'll start with, what's your idea of a perfect weekend, and do you have any guilty pleasures?
What's my idea of a perfect weekend? Honestly, it is just reading a book, get up early, go to the gym, read a book, and spend the whole day either just chilling and not really doing anything. I think for me, I value just switching off, and I'm
Yeah.
beginning to value it more and more as I build a business. So just being able to kind of switch off and just do nothing and then come back refreshed on the Monday.
And it's often in those switched off moments that you have your best ideas, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you. And if we were to have a look in your fridge, what might we find in there?
I don't know if I want to say this one. So
You can always make it up. We can't see.
I've been really bad this week. You probably find loads of like takeaway boxes and stuff like that. I've got some Chinese in there. I ordered like a curry the other day. It's been one of those it's been one of those weeks. So if you look in my fridge, you see kind of like takeaway boxes right now, because it's been a long week, and I can't wait to start eating healthily again next week.
Oh, leftover for dinner tonight then.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you're going to be sort of vulnerable and open, you have to sort of be, share that sometimes you just have bad weeks and you eat takeaways, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
Sticking with food, because I think Wendy and I love food, and I've just got this philosophy that business should be done with food, if possible. So restaurants, have you got a bit of a favorite restaurant or somewhere that you're dying to go to?
My favorite restaurant, and I'm a big foodie. I love Caribbean food. There is a nice little spot for every Manchester. I have got to take you both. It's called Eat and Sweet. It is the best Caribbean food you will ever have, and it's like my favorite restaurant. It's like the restaurant where, if I need food to kind of pick me up, I will just go to Eat and Sweet. First of all, like, the people there are incredible. I have the most incredible conversations with the staff there, but actually the food itself is just so rich. I love it.
That sounds amazing. Okay,
Yeah, I love the
up for
sound of
going
that.
there.
Yeah, Manchester, here we come.
And I know obviously you have a love of planes, and I imagine you still have a love of planes. We've all been a bit sort of stuck in our homes for a while, but we can fly again now. Are there countries that you would love to go to that you haven't been to yet? Is there anywhere specific on your bucket list?
That is a very good question. It's probably not even a country, because I grew up watching a lot of these kind of like documentaries about the Drake Passage and Antarctica. I'll probably say Antarctica. It's probably like a random answer, but I've watched so many documentaries on National Geographic and Discovery about Antarctica that I just want to go. It's one of those things that I'm really fascinated by.
Love it.
You're going to need your big coat. It's pretty chilly. So if Tamara and I had it within our power to give you an extra hour every day, how would you spend it?
I'll probably spend it with my friends and family. I feel like when you're running a business, there's always problems to solve. There's always things to do. There's always strategy to think about. There's always fires to put out. But I feel like a lot of times that I don't get is to kind of spend time with your loved ones. To spend time with my mom and my sisters and my nieces and my nephews. So if I had an extra hour, I would do that.
That sounds lovely. And how would your friends describe you?
How my friends describe me? They would probably say hardworking, loving, as in deeply, deeply, deeply caring. And I'll probably also say maybe annoying, because I can be I can be all over my friends and they're like, "Oh, you're a bit too annoying today. Maybe you're a bit too annoying." So I'd probably say those.
It's a very honest answer. Thank you.
I think we've discussed karaoke before, but this is going to be my last, obviously very, very important question. Do you like karaoke, and do you have a go-to song?
I love a bit of karaoke.
Yeah.
I love a bit of karaoke. My dad used to, like, growing up, he used to have a massive collection of reggae, and Bob Marley was at the top of that list. And I used to love, No Woman No Cry. No woman no cry. I could sing that over and over again. And yeah, my go-to would probably be Bob Marley. Anything that's Bob Marley, No Woman No Cry, the whole entire playlist. Like I would be all over that.
That sounds fab. And I think that might be our first singing that we've had on the podcast tomorrow.
That's wonderful. So we've got to go to Manchester. We're going to do karaoke. We're going to have lovely Caribbean food. We have plans to make, but
Yes.
we have now come to the end of the podcast. I just want to give you one last chance, Milimo, to is there anything that you want to talk about that we haven't asked you, or take the opportunity to have some, closing thoughts?
I'll probably say some closing thoughts just as I reflect on the podcast and reflect on our opportunity here to kind of share and speak, is that commitment that the marketing industry as a whole needs to make to, attract, to engage, to work with diverse individuals. That's something that sits very, very closely to my heart and to my own personal cause. So, if I was going to leave a statement here, I would definitely say, a commitment to marketers, to the marketing industry, to really, really think about diversity and inclusion, to really think about how to build diverse teams and change the industry for the better.
You've been listening to Genuine Humans, brought to you by The Social Element. If you loved what you heard, remember to subscribe, or you can find out more at www.thesocialelement.agency.